Hi, my name's Naira, and in today's postnatal yoga, we'll be focusing on the group of muscles known as the pelvic floor, starting off nice and simple and static, and then building up in intensity and complexity. So you're starting seated on a brick or two. I've got a couple of bricks here underneath me. On your knees, I'm going to turn to the side so you can see the posture that you need to have during this first pose. So we're seated on the bricks in hero pose and really come on to the sit bones. You can even pull the fleshy bits of your butt away from the bricks, sitting up nice and tall. Your hands can be placed slightly behind you or just to the side so that you've got that nice long spine growing through the crown of the head, rolling the shoulders back, and just really making sure that you've got the pelvis in a neutral position. So you might almost feel the entrance to your vagina actually sort of resting on the bricks. And I just want to explain, I'll turn back to face you now that you've got the posture clear in your head. Whenever I say during this video to activate or engage the pelvic floor, so I'm going to show you with the mouth on my face. I mean, let's be real, if we've gone through pregnancy and given birth, there's loads of things we're just not squeamish about anymore. So imagine my mouth is the vagina. What you're actually doing with your vaginal muscles is you're sucking up. So imagine you're lifting and sucking up with those muscles away from your underwear. So you're literally doing a movement like that. So you could either do it slowly or quickly. Got it? Now you're doing that with the lips down below, not with these. So you're sitting on your brick in hero position. I showed you the posture from the side. And all we're going to do here is actually just gently activate those pelvic floor muscles around the vagina, because these muscles are also found around the urethra and the anus. But let's just focus on the vagina. If you can also engage around the anus and urethra as if you're holding in your wee or holding in a number 2, perfect, do that as well. At this point, we're not too worried about isolating. We just want to feel that lift and that engagement. So you're going to inhale, and as you inhale and then retain the inhale, suck up those muscles and then hold them for a slow exhale of 10 seconds. So I'm basically going to say inhale, engage, and then I'm going to count 10 for you to keep those muscles engaged, lifting and sucking up the whole time. And as you're engaging those pelvic floor muscles, I want you also to draw your belly button towards the spine. So you're engaging the lower belly as well. It seems like a lot to think about. Let's try it. Let's do it 3 times in this position. So inhale, retain the breath, and then suck up through the pelvic floor, draw the belly button in towards the spine, lift, lift, lift those pelvic floor muscles away from the brick, grow through the crown of the head, and hold for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. And of course, you were exhaling through those 10 seconds. It's quite a long time to hold, so don't feel bad at all if you could only hold for 5 seconds or 6 or even 3 seconds. It's not a problem. You can build up. I just like to aim high. So let's start and do that again. So we inhale, retain the breath, lift up through the pelvic floor, draw the belly button towards the spine, grow through the crown of the head, back nice and long. Exhale for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. One more time, just relax for a second, and then inhale, retain the breath, lift up through the pelvic floor, draw the belly button to the spine, and hold that pelvic floor engaged for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Really well done. It's tough. Like I say at the beginning, you might not be able to hold for 10 seconds, and that is not a problem. At the moment, we're just working on actually being able to feel those muscles and being aware of them. So let's try this exact same thing, standing up in mountain pose, Tadasana. Come up against a wall, heels against the wall, feet parallel, directly underneath the hips or hip width apart. Roll the shoulders back, shoulder blades against the wall, both glutes attached to the wall as well, hands down by the side, energy through the fingertips. You're looking straight ahead, you're growing through the crown of the head, back of the head is against the wall. Can be a soft bend in the knees, so we're doing exactly the same thing here. Inhale, as you retain the inhale, you suck up those pelvic floor muscles, you draw the belly button towards the spine, and you hold that pelvic floor engagement for 10 seconds as you exhale. Let's go. Inhale. Retain that breath, lift up through the pelvic floor, draw the belly button towards the spine and hold for an exhale of 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let it all go. Let's do that again. Inhale. Hold the breath, lift up through the pelvic floor, belly button to spine, grow tall, hold the pelvic floor engaged and lifted for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Losing my voice there. Let's do that one more time. Inhale, retain the breath, lift up through the pelvic floor, engage and hold for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Lovely. Give the legs a shake. We're now going to up the intensity slightly, but also add some movement in and change the breathing a little bit. So take a brick or equivalent, place it between the thighs, and you're going to walk the feet just a little way away from the wall, just so you've got a bit of a bend in the knees. The feet or the ankles are directly underneath the knees, but we're not bending so that the thighs are parallel to the floor or anything like that. You're going to have your hands in front of you like this, and you start off with just the natural curve in your spine. So you might have a bit of a curve in the lower back here, no problem. And that'll be the inhale. On the exhale, I want you to press your lower back into the wall, engage the glutes, tuck the tailbone under and draw the belly button towards the spine. So you're tipping the pelvis under. And as you do that, you're lifting through the pelvic floor like we did in the last pose. But this is going to be a little bit more dynamic because you inhale, pelvic floor, everything loose. Exhale, engage the pelvic floor, engage the glutes, belly to spine, tuck the tailbone under. And then inhale, release. Exhale, tuck under and engage. So you're not holding for as long. We're just keeping the movement going and the breathing slightly different. Let's go. Inhale. Natural curve to the spine. By the way, I forgot to say on the exhale, you're also squeezing the brick between the thighs because the inner thighs have a connection to the pelvic floor. So as we work the inner thighs and strengthen them, we're strengthening the pelvic floor too. So keeping that brick squeezed between the thighs. Inhale, release. Exhale, belly to spine. Lift and engage the pelvic floor. Tuck the tailbone under, squeeze the brick. Inhale, release. Exhale, glutes, pelvic floor, lower belly, thighs engaged. Inhale, release. 3 more times. Exhale, engage everything, tuck under, lift through the pelvic floor. Inhale, release. Exhale, squeeze the brick, lift up through the pelvic floor, tip the pelvis forward. And inhale, release. 1 more time. I think we've got 1 more. Exhale, tuck under, squeeze the brick, draw the belly to the spine and let go. Great, great job. Release for just a second, shake it out. We're going to do that again in a similar position, but moving the feet forward even more so that now you're almost in a sort of squat position. So your thighs are almost parallel to the floor. So can walk the feet forward a little bit more, squeezing the brick. You're going to feel this probably a bit more in the legs than in the posture we just did. So again, exactly the same movement, legs are just in slightly different position. Inhale, exhale, tuck the tailbone under, belly to spine, lift through the pelvic floor, squeeze the brick. Inhale, spine back to neutral. Exhale, press the lower back against the wall, tuck the tailbone under, pelvic floor lifts and squeezes. And inhale, release. Exhale, belly to spine, tuck under, squeeze the brick, lift through the pelvic floor. And inhale, release twice more. Exhale, go for it. And then we inhale, release, and then exhale. And release. Great job. I'm actually starting to sweat slightly, like it's quite intense, even though it doesn't look like we're doing a lot. So now we're going to put the brick between the thighs and come into cat-cow, which is a move we do very often in yoga, but not usually with the brick between the thighs. And in this movement, we're going to actually try and keep the pelvic floor engaged through the entire movement. So now you're working on the endurance of holding the pelvic floor, but while you're moving rather than static. So coming onto all fours, you've got the hands directly underneath the shoulders, you're squeezing the brick between the thighs, so your knees are actually quite close together here. So as we know, or if you don't know, cat-cow, we inhale, drop the belly, look forward, shoulders away from the ears, exhale, belly to spine, round the back, push the mat away with the hands and let the head go. One more time, it looks like this. Great, and now you're going to do that movement while squeezing the brick between the thighs and engaging, lifting up through the pelvic floor the whole time, in your own time, in rhythm with your own breath. Let's go, inhale. Lovely. Sorry, I got hair in my eye a second there. And what's interesting when you do this, because with postnatal yoga, as I've said before, it's also about rediscovering your body, being patient with it, being curious as to what's going on in your body after giving birth. Just notice where you have difficulty maintaining that hold and engagement of the pelvic floor. Just be curious about how it feels. And now we're going to come up into downward dog. So spread the fingers really wide on the mat, tuck the toes under. You're going to lift the hips up and back towards the back of the mat, pressing the fingers strongly into the mat. And just hold here for a few breaths. Again, squeezing the brick between the thighs, lifting up through the pelvic floor. Interesting, because here the pelvic floor is sort of in suspension. But lift up through it and draw the lower belly and the belly button towards the spine and relax the head. And come back down onto the knees. Release. Really, really great job. We're going to do one more pose, working the pelvic floor and engaging it, and then it's time for relaxation. So coming into a bridge pose here, again, keeping the brick between the knees. So coming onto your back and feet flat on the floor, you've got the brick between the thighs. Hands pressing into the floor, make sure your shoulders stay connected with the floor, back of the neck is long. And we're going to do dynamic and static bridge. So let's start with dynamic. And for the purpose of just sort of having an easier engagement with the pelvic floor, we'll exhale as we lift the hips rather than inhale. Traditionally, yoga says an inhale, Pilates is an exhale, but to be honest, you can do both and whichever you prefer. But let's start on the inhale here, and on the exhale you're going to press the lower back into the floor, engage the glutes, tuck the tailbone under, lift the hips high while engaging that pelvic floor, and then inhale, slowly roll down, relax the pelvic floor. Exhale, tuck under, lift the pelvic floor, lift the hips. Inhale, roll down vertebra by vertebra, upper, middle, then lower back. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift and engage, squeeze the brick. Inhale, lower and let go. Exhale, lift and engage and squeeze. Inhale to let go. Exhale, lift, engage, squeeze. Inhale, let it go. And this time we're going to exhale, lift, engage and squeeze and hold here. So keep that pelvic floor lifted and engaged, the glutes squeezed, engaged for 10, 9, keep breathing, 8, 7, breathe through the nose, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then release. So it's also interesting to actually hold the pelvic floor while we're breathing normally rather than holding on the exhale. So let's do that again. This time we'll hold it for 5 breaths. So inhale and then exhale, tuck the tailbone under, squeeze the glutes, lift up and take 5 long inhales and exhales in your own time, squeezing and lifting and engaging the pelvic floor. And slowly release. Really well-deserved rest coming up, so put the brick to one side and we're going to come into child's pose. We can take this into a wide-legged child's pose, and we're going to use this opportunity to also do the opposite. That's let go and relax through the pelvic floor. So just let it all go and slowly walk the hands forward on the mat. Place the forehead on the mat, letting the hips sit back on the heels. Your knees are as wide as the mat and the toes are touching. Stay in child's pose with every inhale, filling the front body, the chest and the belly, letting the belly go. And with every exhale, allowing the hips to maybe sink a little further towards the heels. Relax the jaw, let the forehead rest heavy on the mat. And relax through the whole pelvic area, maybe sending the breath to any areas that feel tight, whether that's in the pelvic area, the lower back, the inner thighs. Breathing naturally, noticing how the breath is slowing down. And when you're ready, slowly walking the hands back towards the knees, come back to sit up on the knees, and we come into our final relaxation, taking a blanket. If you have one, this is just to give you a little bit of support under the lower back. We're going to lie on the blanket with our legs up the wall. I did this pose in the introductory sort of first postnatal sequence post-birth. It's just a great one to calm down the nervous system, to kind of bring the circulation away from the legs towards the upper body. It can be great for any kind of fatigue, but also fantastic for anxiety. Just helps to rebalance the nervous system. And if you've got any issue with kind of fluid in the legs, heavy legs, anything like that, swollen legs can be great too. Put the yoga strap around the thighs just above the knees and tighten it. The purpose of that is simply so that you can relax in the hip flexors and in the legs, so you're not using any muscles to hold the legs together. And just lie here. You can place the hands on the belly or just alongside the body, whatever feels best. Opening through the chest, relaxing through the shoulders, back of the neck is long, close down the eyes, and just breathe through the nose. Again, this is actually a great position to activate the pelvic floor. Sometimes if you find it hard to feel those muscles, this can be a great position in which to actually just gain awareness of them, whether that's the anus, the urethra, or the vagina. So feel free to try that another time in your own time. But right now, we're using this posture for relaxation rather than activating the pelvic floor. So just lie here, nothing to do, nowhere to go. Just taking this time for yourself, thanking your body, thanking the universe for bringing you to the mat today. Thanking all the teachers before us who have guided us to this point. And just feeling the belly rise and fall, relaxing through the whole pelvic area as you breathe naturally. Letting go of what's come before and also letting go of what's to come next. Just breathing in the present moment. Feel free to stay here as long as you like. It's a pose that's great to hold for 5, 10, even 15 minutes. Don't feel you have to come out of it, but if you're ready to follow me, just bend the knees, removing the strap, roll onto one side and come to a seated position on your mat, moving slowly, crossing the legs, and then we're going to take an inhale and an exhale, exhaling through the mouth. So let's do that together. Bring the hands in prayer position to heart center, and then together we inhale, and on the exhale we make the sound Om. Thank you so much for practicing with me today and for sticking through to the end of what was a really challenging practice. I can't wait to see you next time.